Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here, along with Ruggin Smith and Kendrick Williams, here on EFL, IFL, and it's Monday. Candy, the Caucasian, is here.
Oh, you did that again. That's
Yeah.
But he did his head like
Yeah,
this.
she did like that because
hair.
that's what she was. No, I was mimicking. It's a mimic.
I
It's a
didn't see her
mimic.
do it. That's why.
Okay, it's a mimic.
Exactly.
Anyway, how are you all?
Good.
I don't know why. What's with that?
Just a thumbs
Oh,
up.
okay. I thought you had like an elbow issue.
Elbow?
You know, like elbows.
She
Okay.
cooling her armpits.
Yeah.
Oh, but before we go on, we gotta say a special.
Well,
happy
no, that no.
birthday.
We're gonna no. Hold on a second. I just want to say
you could get
it
so
feels.
off topic.
No, I'm not. This isn't off topic. It just feels like this is the first show for a long time, even though I was here on Thursday because I was away. But it seems like a long time ago. So I just thought I'd mention that. Now you can carry on, as they say. Joan.
Can you play that music for me?
It's on.
So, I don't have my headphones. Yeah, that's an incentive for me to get my headphones again. But we want to say a special happy birthday to Anthony Ace Newbold, who sort of filled in as a co-host these past 2 episodes. He was here last week, Thursday and Monday. And he's also the president of the Bahamas Press Club. So thank you, Ace, for always coming through for EFL. And we wish you a very, very, very special birthday from Edward Rogan Candelaria, and of course, none other than Kendrick Williams.
Happy birthday, bye. All right.
You're a hater.
No, I'd say happy
my
birthday, bye. You
God.
did the whole song and all that.
You're
It's kind
such
of,
a
you got a
hater.
whole
It's
theme
such
and all
a
that sort of
hater
thing.
dread.
Anyway, what's going on in the world of the Bahamas?
You didn't read your papers?
I mean, you
Okay,
have
then
your
bring it
crimes.
You bring
You
it
have your
up.
crimes. This is an old paper too. But you have some more, seemingly, I don't know what you call those type of killings. Are they gangland killings?
We don't know what they are.
We don't know what they are. We don't know what they are.
They're tragic.
And I heard that there was. I don't know if there's a rumor or not that there was a shooting in the area on. Was that the food store on Howell Road? I guess that would have been the Independent. I don't know. I don't want to say where it is. I don't even know if it's true.
I don't know if it's true because a lot of it may be, it may not be.
Yeah.
People send false information around all the
They're
time.
saying
So
because you see, once you have one of these, then you have like what you call your retaliate.
it's just so
it's
so sad because these boys were 13 and 15,
Mm-hmm.
head shot in the head, execution style, laid side by side, and I just. What do you say after
There's
murder
nothing to
after
say.
murder? What else do you say? Except if you know something, don't hold it to yourself.
Yeah.
Just let the police know.
Yeah, it's
It's
what
sad.
what is I mean, and I was talking to someone the other day. What were we talking about when we were growing up? Oh, how my father would tell me I lived at a dead end, and let's just let's say they were to the end of the corner. There were say 8 lampposts. Well, I wasn't allowed to go past the 4th. That's the kind of discipline you had going on, right? Like, you're not allowed to go past the fourth lamppost. It's a problem if you do. And believe me, man, we had bicycles and we had all kind of things. And when we hit that 4th lamppost, screech. Okay? So, but but even the way that people handle things, there were fights. Let's face it, there have been fights. But this gun thing.
Yeah, because back in the day, people pick up rock and bottle.
Rock or a knife. They even had knives. I mean, but the gun thing is so easy. You have that gun, and boom. I saw something on TV. No, it was on Facebook. It doesn't matter. About it was on TV about people who are in jail. Documentary they did, and how these guys realized just in a second how everything changed. They took away someone's son or someone's father or someone's mother, that they were in jail. They had to deal with it. They're having to deal with it forever. And the reason why they did it in many cases, why they carried a gun, so they could feel invincible, so they could feel some sort of in control or self-esteem. And
You'd be
I
so
don't know.
surprised how quickly a situation can escalate once you have a weapon in your hand, because now you feel empowered. You can do something to someone. You know how many times I've cursed somebody out for jumping in the front of me, especially when you're going like around the roundabout. You just never know what could happen in that moment if you. I don't need any weapon whatsoever.
So yeah, so the
At
big
all.
question is
You neither, Candy.
the big question is why we carrying guns, and I suppose in this day and age there'll be many amongst that demographic who are carrying guns who say they need it to protect themselves. So it's a vicious cycle, right? You need it to protect yourself, but you know what? If you don't have a gun, chances are you're not involved in a gun play thing. I don't know.
Why do you have a gun?
No, I have a shotgun
Yeah, but it's still a
to
gun.
go hunting.
Oh, just
Yeah,
hunting.
to go hunting. And it's a legal gun, and I don't, that's to go hunting. I'm a hunter.
That gentleman who stole your stuff, were you hunting him?
I was hunting him.
Okay.
But see, there's a difference between, when they talk about the right to bear arms, which, I'm not big on that. I'm not big on that to extent where you certainly don't have a right to bear an AK-40 or a bazooka. There's an element
got a
of
shotgun.
protection. Yeah, no, yeah, but a shotgun is when you go hunting. Let's say you go bird hunting, you don't go bird hunting with an AK-47 or a clip with 40 rounds in it. Okay,
I think it's
there's
splitting
a little video out about the Second Amendment in the United States about the right to bear arms, right? And this guy walks in to this office with a musket, and he shoots and it misses, and then he has to load. Where you have to go to this thing and stick it in and do that. By the time everyone done gone. The whole when they were talking about the right to bear arms back then, the edge has changed. Now you can go buy these 100 clip. Anyway, it's a crazy
I don't know.
thing. It's a crazy, and certainly I'm not driving around with it. That's the other thing too. I mean, people are walking around in clubs and in their car and all that with guns. I mean, it's like.
I just don't like guns, period.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
And so I'm just saying, it's everybody feels like they have a reason for having it. Yours is I go hunting and it stays at home or whatever.
And
but
locked up. Okay.
Until someone robs you.
No, because the impulse. Listen. Well, first of all, that is a protection mode. So if you're in your house, I'm talking about in your house. If you're in your house and you're robbed, that's a protection mode. But the point I'm making is, people have weapons. They don't have self-control. They're driving around with it. They're pulling it out of the back seat. Yeah, someone invaded me. I didn't, and I was wrong.
Okay.
And I was wrong.
Okay, so I'm just hold on. You're getting mad at me, right?
No,
But
I'm not.
I'm just you're getting frustrated. I'm just trying to show you the hypocrisy in it. That's what I'm saying.
There's no hypocrisy.
There is hypocrisy
No,
in it, Edward.
hypocrisy is this is the hypocrisy. When someone touches my girlfriend, or someone touches me in a bar, or someone says something to me wrong. If I can assure you this, if someone comes to invade your property, I'm not even going to waste time. I was on a jury. I was on a jury. I was on a jury. This is the same example. I was on a jury.
Right back to the same.
I was on a jury, and the gentleman who I know, and he may be known to some of you, someone broke into his house. He managed to get away just to the edge of his property. The gentleman shot him and killed him. Well, the judge threw the case out because he knew we were all going to vote not guilty. Okay? So I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'll let you have the last word on it. You can call me hypocrite. I don't mind.
I'm just saying, someone invaded your home, and you didn't deal with it on your premises. You got in your car and you followed that person.
Right.
That's the point I'm seeking to make to you.
That's correct.
So that's no different than somebody who is mad because you talking to their girlfriend and they go somewhere and get a gun and come back to the person.
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
I accept it.
Okay, great. Okay. We can move on.
So now, So anyway, as I said, there's a difference between being threatened and being not being able to deal with an emotional scenario. There's a difference between, and this is my point of view. There's a difference between being threatened. I'm just talking about general, and I'm the hypocrite, so I don't mind. There's a difference between being threatened, being constantly invaded, because this was like the 8th time that this person had invaded my property, and taking action to stop someone from invading my property. That's different, in my view, from just settling a dispute of the heart and all these things. So, but that's another story.
Last word, no problem.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem.
But I'm a hypocrite, so you got the last word on that. So now, what else we got going on? We have, it's always good to have a Monday afternoon row. And we have the labor laws going on. What do you think about the labor laws, the new redundancy?
No, what do you think? You represent one of the largest employers in this country, and you got a lot of them are saying that they're now mulling wages and hiring freezes. I'm not an employer.
Oh, I don't know who's saying the mulling. Sorry, they didn't. I can make you one. This is a guarantee. It didn't come from me.
No, it's some members of the Bahamas Hotel and Restaurant Employers Association. They're meeting today actually to determine a strategy on how they're going to handle that.
Yeah, they're having a meeting. I think they're having a meeting tomorrow. No, listen. I'm assuming. I'm only assuming from what I read, and I can assure you, Scouts on or whatever you want, is that I would assume that employers, because there's always two sides of this story, feel as if this is a major impact. In fact, I'm going to be calling Mr. Hartnell. He called me just a couple of minutes ago, and I'll make a statement on it. That this is a major blow to the expense base. We had, if I recall, Mr. Roll on here last week, Kalis Roll, and he stated that we were talking about the cost of doing business in this country and how we slipped away. What's happening? How we slipped away from 50. We were talking about how we slipped away from 58 to 121 on the list of doing business. And the reality is, costs are one of those things, and this is a huge impact in costs. And the thing that concerns me is, it is obviously a reaction to what happened at Sandals.
Absolutely.
And I don't, the example I use, I saw someone, I have to use the example, is that when someone in class is chewing gum and everyone get punished. So I don't know what the reaction will be, but I assume that employers will have to react accordingly. They have to look at how they can minimize the impact. You don't just sit there and take it. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. I think one of the biggest points that was a concern, according to Mr. Sumner from the Chamber of Commerce, was that there's a tripartite. And the premise that Mr. Sumner put forward was that this was not a unanimous decision by the tripartite. And I'm not qualified to state this, but I will say that the premise he was putting is that in order for a recommendation to be made to the minister, you have to have a unanimous position. Because otherwise, you might as well not have the tripartite. So
let me just read. So it says, key among employer concerns is a 67% or 2/3 increase in the Employment Act's redundancy pay cap. Line staff are currently entitled to a maximum 24 weeks or 6 months redundancy pay under the Employment Act, gaining 2 weeks for each year they have been employed up to the 12-year cap. So
I mean, and I don't, it'd be interesting because one of the things we always talked about when we talked about other bills is to look how this looks against other world and other country standards, right? I mean, 88 weeks is how much is that? That's like 2 years, right? That's rough 2 years. That's a lot of weeks to get a salary for being made redundant or to be terminated. That's a lot of weeks.
Yeah, because they want to increase the cap now to 32 weeks. Yep, 16.
32, and then for managerial 80 up to 80.
48 weeks.
Right.
For managerial staff, the existing 48 weeks redundancy
will go to 64 and then 80 and then 80.
Then 80.
Right.
Weeks after.
It's just it's kind of so basically what you're doing is saying to employers, and I'm being generic here, because there's another element there that says you have to notify the government or a union 6 weeks in advance. Well, that's untenable. I'll tell you why. When you're terminating someone, you don't want them on your property for 6 weeks.
I agree with that.
Because there's a whole lot of shit going on.
Okay,
so it's one of those things where basically what I feel at the heart of it, and I'm giving my personal feeling, is that is an intrusion on me running my business. Because so even one person, if you want to lay off one person, you have to inform someone. Well, who are you going to inform if it's not a union? I mean, you have to go to a lawyer and say, listen, I intend to get rid of Rogan, or do you go to Rogan and say, by the way, who's your representative? Because I have to tell someone. Yeah. It's almost no one wants it. It's anti-business, and as I said to you before on this show many times, that we kind of live in a non-business oriented, and small business is what small and large business, but small business is what drives the economy. And so I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I understand that there was a reaction to something that took place. The question is this the required reaction? Because again, it's like punishing the whole class because Rogan chewing gum, and it just seems a little
If you're an employee, you're rejoicing right now.
Well,
if you're an employer,
well,
not
the
so
funny
much.
thing about it is that this only impacts a very small percentage of employees, because not a lot of employees are getting made redundant on a regular basis. But it would seem to me like things that there would be other benefits that employees that are more immediate, because you can go through your whole life, never be made redundant, and therefore this will never happen. You don't get a benefit from this. It's only when in the case there's we had to do it before, as you know, there was a mass redundancy in order for the business to survive when we had in 2008. So I don't know. I'm hoping that it will work itself out, because it's certainly not. I don't know where the comparison is. I just don't know where that comparison is. Maybe there's some other Caribbean countries that do this type of thing.
This afternoon.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right, we'll be right back. Yeah. We're gonna get with Candy. Yeah, we're gonna get with Candy in a bit. But what's gonna happen, unfortunately, is there will be if this law does come out, there's always a reaction. You can't. No one just sits and takes. But I think, and basically, I'm going to say what I'm going to talk to Mr. Hartnell about very candidly, and that is the industry, employers are extremely concerned about the increasing difficulty or the increasing difficult environment it is to do business here. And what is happening in an environment that is highly, unstable, just globally, the global economy, the constant adding of expenses is just unsustainable. It's not a hate the employee thing or anything like that. We treat our employees. I'm going to be honest. We treat our employees well. When we had to make some employees redundant back in 2008, we not only played what was the law, we not only gave notice, but we went above. We provided health insurance for 6 months past the employment date. We spoke to banks to make sure that their mortgages, if they had mortgages, were had a little grace period. We looked at how to look at job placement. We did with psychological counseling and all sorts of things. So you can't just broad brush everyone. But the main thing is you also can't just continually punish business. Okay? Business is what drives the economy and what has these folks employed.
You make it so cost prohibitive. You don't even want to go into business for yourself.
Listen, I make you a bet. I don't like to make bets, so I'll make you this statement. No, I don't like to make not them kind of bets. I only like to bet bets where I believe I can win for sure. Except the Super Bowl where I lost. It is certainly not conducive to encouraging investment.
No, it surely isn't.
So,
and you have to protect employees, because you do have situations where companies will just close up shop and then people are left holding the bag. I do understand the need to protect your employees, but again, you don't want to make it so rigid that people that companies suffer or they just can't. You know what I mean? It's just too costly.
Well, even in the case,
let
me just say this. Even in the case with Sandals, I'm going to be very clear here. Even in the case with Sandals, they were paid based on the law. So if they were up to 48 weeks or whatever the maximum was at the time, they were paid that. Okay, so it wasn't as if when they fired them, and I'm not getting on what was happening there, they didn't go, well, you get nothing. They gave them what they were entitled to. All this is saying is now we're going to double it, so that we're going to double it as a punitive measure. And then here's a little catch now. Originally, did you know that if you didn't serve notice, you could have had gone to jail? That was the original draft. that if an employer did not give notice to the minister of the union, they could get some jail
I
time.
think that they should. Not
Get jail time?
Not jail time, but they should have been giving notice.
I agree, but is the penalty jail time? No.
No,
So
no.
now they've taken
Done
it down
away
to
with
where
that.
you pay them 30 days. Well, you know what's going to happen? They're just going to pay them the 30 days. Because if you got to give 6 weeks notice, well, I tell you what, I'm not going to give you the 6 weeks notice. Okay, I'll just pay the 30 fine and plus 2 more weeks. How's that? Because you can't give if you're gonna terminate 10 or 15 people. If you're going to terminate one, by the way, if you have to terminate one person. So how do you run a business?
Wow.
I am supposed to go and sit with someone and say, oh, by the way, let me let you know that I'm going to terminate Rogan 6 weeks from now. Shh, don't tell Rogan. Okay?
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre, actually, right? So now, people will just take the fine
Yeah.
because it's not viable for the business,
Right.
Anyway. Candy, what's going on, girl? You got a kind of strawberry milk? You want that red? That's like a dirty blonde. What you got there?
Dirty blonde.
Strawberry blonde. What you got
Dirty
there?
blonde.
What you call that? What you call that color?
I feel
That's
like
like a
this
rust?
is like copper, like a
A
rusted
rust?
penny or
Okay,
something.
all right. Like a brass?
Brassy.
Okay.
No, it looked better than brassy.
Really?
Yeah.
It was red.
Okay. All right. So it's like a
But
faded red.
Yeah, I was. It's,
Okay.
I gotta
What
go
you call
back.
a Fred?
So silly. A
Hey,
Fred.
Rogie.
I bought a Fred. I've got
What's
a
going
Fred.
on, man? Tell me what's going down.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's my
It's your thing.
my time, right? So I'm going to talk about living with adult children and how do we manage that, and how do we,
Move 'em out.
how do parents and your adult child live harmoniously under the same roof together?
Which has which is a common phenomenon in the Bahamas. In the States, it used to be where you move out. Now
Right.
it's
The
it's
States-
expensive. They move it back
Yes, right. The majority
in. Hillary Clinton. What Hillary Clinton say? They move
They
it back
say
in.
now nearly 53% of young adults between 18 and 24 in the United States are living back home.
Between 18 and 24.
18 and 24. But nah, in
Yeah.
the Bahamas, you hear
It's probably
you
like
have to
93.
you at home till you like
Yeah.
35, sometimes
Where you
even
live
40.
now? How old are you? 48. Where you live? I live by mommy.
But of course, there are
What up,
different
Kendra?
there are different reasons why your adult child would be living at home. So you have the adult children that have just finished high school and they're in maybe college. They're here in COB, and they, you're helping to take care of them while they're in school,
Yeah.
and that's the agreement. Or you have children that, opted out. I'm not going to school, but I'm working.
Well, also the cost of housing is very
And the cost
high.
of house. Yeah, well, I was getting to that. You're working to build up yourself financially, towards a goal of independence. And then you have, yes, for economic reasons, I can't afford to go rent anywhere or, be out there and try to build myself financially. So
Another scenario too. There are retired parents who can't afford to maintain the household, so they have their kids there to help them.
yeah,
But the
well, I'm
parents,
sure
that
there are
means the
all
parents
sorts
living
of
with them. They
right.
It's
Right,
their house.
exactly. Well, I'm sure
But you know what I
there's
mean?
But
there's
Mom, you give me this house,
plenty
now you come back.
scenarios. There's lots of scenarios,
There's
but
different scenarios.
I mean, regardless of the scenario, right? Like you still have an adult child living in your house,
Yeah. We'll put your little cramp on the two-gun kid thing,
On the what?
put
On
your,
the, what do you say?
The slinger. The gunslinger. You never heard about the two-gun kid? Okay, never mind. You know about two-gun kid? Here's a
No,
cartoon.
see, you don't know.
Here's a cartoon. He had two guns.
Okay.
and I mean, living in in those circumstances can kind of they either
style?
It's gonna be.
crappy
It's
style,
gonna
but
be
it
tense,
could
man.
drive you
It's a lot of
crazy,
tension.
or it's a lot of tension. I mean, do you what boundaries do you set, or do you set boundaries because you have an adult living in your house, or what is the goal? Like
The
what
goal?
is-
The goal is to get out. Someone has to get out.
and then what kind of boundaries can you put on in an adult child?
Well, you can. Yeah. See, this is where you have to have. you got to come up with kind of like doors and stuff. A lot of like, we got to cut out a hole in the wall for a separate entrance, man.
I mean, do they contribute? Are you
yes.
are you going to tell your child that they have to pay something every week towards the household?
It depends on
At
the
least
scenario.
towards the soundproofing.
Soundproofing for what?
So they don't hear what's going on in the room. It depends on the scenario, because okay, let's just say you have your 20 or 21-year-old daughter or son who's at the University of Bahamas. They have a little part-time job. They're not going to have that much money to pay out. Now, they could give you a portion of their earnings or something like that, but I would request payment from my child because it teaches them responsibility. I see too many situations where adult kids have been living with their families for such a long time, and then if something happens and they have to go out on their own, they're not accustomed to paying bills. So
Right.
it's good when you're paying bills with your parents, so it trains you on how to handle things when you go out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And as far as you saying, do you put restrictions on them? It's a tough situation because at the end of the day, for the parent, it is their house.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, listen, I lived in my house at least until I was 24, 25. You know, I'd been in college, came out,
Yep.
went to grad school, came out, so I was still at home. I didn't have no cash buck.
Right.
So,
you
I had a
go back
job,
home. Yeah.
so I was home. But there wasn't no limitation. I just go out.
Right.
Your parents didn't say.
So you
"Don't
could come
you gotta
home,
No, no,
you
no,
could
no,
sleep
no,
out
no,
and
no.
stuff like that.
You
No,
could
no,
do
no,
that?
no, no. They never had that. I'm talking about the boundaries. I talking about what you could do. So you had to do what you had to do out the road.
Okay, but you couldn't bring no. You couldn't bring no gal.
No, but right, but
No, I could,
you could
yeah,
come
but
home 6
but
o'clock
you're
in the-
not,
in the morning and
it's
stuff.
a small
Up
house.
in your
It's
room.
yeah, you
room to
could, but I
yourself?
mean, what I'm saying is, yeah, what you know, what are you gonna do? Watch a flick? I
No.
go remote.
You go
out, do your
remote.
dirt.
Yeah, I didn't deal with the the
Yeah.
home
Come
base
home,
I
like
think that's
that.
the decent thing
Yeah,
to
I
do.
just
mean,
home
you
is
know.
to sleep and eat.
And yeah.
Could you stay out at all hours?
Yeah.
You could come home 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I was
2, 3,
25.
I got a problem with that.
Well, good.
No,
I didn't.
but I would like to
they-
talk about that.
Yeah.
Why? Oh, we have to go to break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just talk to him. Which front door? Because he ain't did that one.
No, that's not that's the side door. That's called the side. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Phil is to the side door. Our guest this afternoon
They're
is Phil
all side
Galanis.
doors, if you ask me.
Well, there's
no
a front door. I mean,
Front
it's
of the building,
yeah,
which is on the side.
It's the main. Yeah. Anyway, it's actually at the corner.
At the corner,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
It's at an angle.
Yeah.
There you
It's
go.
but we know where it is. It's
Yes.
definitely this is side.
This-
This is definitely not front, right?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
Right.
amazing the discussions we have and the tangents we go off. But anyway, talking about doors, kids coming to.
Well, we were talking about curfew. Like, should you, how can you set a curfew for an adult child? And I know Rogan was talking about, oh, yes, you can. And I mean, I know how I was brought up. I came from a pretty traditional house, and I
let's
had
go
a curfew.
extreme, but let's go extreme. See, because we talk about people living at home till late, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you're 30. You're going to set a curfew for me? Come on. Let's be real.
No, I think.
It's not going to happen, okay? But I mean, we got to have
I think 30 as opposed to a 21-year-old is two different
Yeah,
things.
21,
because
but
at 30
25
you're more mature, you can more,
I just think
your decisions are more sound.
I just think that you have
hopefully.
to have a discussion. I don't think that you should have.
He's not there.
No? Well, let me give you the
by
number
the
he had
trivia.
called. Let me give you the number that he had called, Rogan, okay? So,
we were just
so
talking
that,
about
yeah.
curfew. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here,
'Cause
here. I called. Can you
Pass the
speak to
phone. We'll
him?
be right back.
There you go.
Yeah, so
I come right back.
Right.
yeah. So I just think that these are discussions to have. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
the difference between 17 and 19,
30,
20,
yeah.
and 25.
Right.
You're working. You're an adult. You're working. You're contributing to the home.
Well, that's if you
Okay?
are. Some
well,
people
let's say
aren't,
you are. I
know.
mean, that's So I just think that these things have to be discussed. I don't think you just.
Because I think I battle, like I said, I battle with, I have a more traditional upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
and I consider myself more of a, I have a very liberal
Mm-hmm.
side as well, and those two sides clash, and so I think I grew up with a curfew, but then you're dealing with these kids in this day and age, and it's like they ain't going out till, like you said, off air, like
Yeah.
10, 11 o'clock when
everything is
might
shifted.
have had to be home.
Everything is shifted, yeah.
And so how do you, for parents, that had that kind of upbringing,
First of all,
how do you even deal with that?
First of all, I think that in today's world, the technology allows for certain
right,
adjustments. So, for instance, if it's a matter of you're worrying,
yeah, send a text.
Send a
Let me know
text,
where
call-
you
yeah,
are,
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
Well, not what you
I can
doing,
let
but
y'all
where
two
you
call
are.
about this.
So I know that you're safe. Some people, but some children think that is you keeping tabs on me, but I'm not. We're not keeping tabs on you.
Was this about the curfew thing?
No, Ed was saying that with technology now you have the ability to keep in contact. You can send a text to say, "Listen, I'm still out, but I'm good. I'm okay." As opposed to when I was growing up, we ain't had no cell phone. I couldn't tell him, "Hey, go to the payphone, put your quarter in, and be like,
Mommy,
hey, daddy,
get your 5 minutes
I could stay out an extra half hour. I'm here, and we're switching locations, and we're going over. I'm serious. Like we had to do that. I mean, because
Right.
I couldn't tell my parents I was one place and end up somewhere else. Suppose something happened to me, and then
Yeah,
what?
exactly.
You know what I mean?
When you're young, you're not really giving consideration to that sort of stuff. You
No,
think
and
you're
you
invincible,
don't.
and we're going to this party and everything will be all right. You just never know. It was a
Right.
different time back then.
Yeah.
But what I was talking about earlier is because you were asking me about the curfew,
Yeah.
and whether the parent should give an adult child a curfew.
Curfew, right?
I don't know so much that it's like me implementing. They should implement, hey, you got to be home by 3 o'clock. But I do realize, or I believe that if you're staying in somebody's house, and if you're staying with your parents and you ain't renting, you ain't paying no rent, you don't giving them no money, you really need to be cognizant of how you're moving in and out of the house. And the reason I say that is because at the end of the day, that person has his or her rules and how they want their house to be governed. And like I was saying to you earlier, you don't know who's following you when you come home. Every day we're hearing these little crazy messages going around telling women to beware. Some of them fake, some might be real.
Yeah.
Saying men following you home. You going out partying every night, people watching your habits. Then you bring trouble right on your doorstep. So for me, it could be a guy or a woman or a girl.
Yeah.
But to me, if you have to be out till 3, 5 o'clock in the morning, then you just stay where you are and then come when the light is out.
You've never been out 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, again.
I have, but I was living on my own.
Okay. Well, okay.
So,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? When I was in high school, I didn't have a curfew, but I was always respectful of the fact that I had a single mother at home, and I didn't want to disrespect her by being home, being out that late. So
Right.
like 11:30, maybe midnight, I was home, and I was calling her to
I
let
had
her
a
know she's
curfew.
okay. But I didn't have a curfew.
I never understood it.
I mean, get your
I mean,
backside.
I ain't gonna lie. I mean, and that's why I think I battle with it as well. I mean, I had it. I think it's. I mean, I understand it now because yes, you put some boundaries or some limits to on your child that
Yeah.
sometimes they're not able to make good decisions, or they're not mature enough to know certain things. And so I think that's curfews for that purpose is and I know, I mean, for people who have alarms, like, let me tell you, certain people's alarms, if you set it to stay, that means when
Yep.
everybody is in the
house,
house. And so
locked
if
down.
somebody from the outside comes in, that sets off the alarm. It's not like everybody's leaving the house and you set it to away, so when you come home, you can disarm it.
Disarm it.
No, it sounds off.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, okay, well, I set my alarm at this time, and I am not interested in hearing my alarm go off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
My thing is, this is my thought process. If you want the freedom to come and go as you please and not have to be accountable or check in with anybody or live by their rules, then go and live by yourself. But if you're an adult child living at home, at the end of the day, and I do agree with you, there's certain things, because you're an adult, you want to be out late, you don't want to be feeling confined by a certain time.
Right.
But if you're living in someone's house, you have to respect their rules.
and enjoying the privileges that are being provided
Absolutely. And
by
then we
that
talk
house.
about that. Yes. You can't have it both ways.
Exactly.
You want mommy cooking for you, and you don't want to pay no
You don't-
light bill and no water bill. But then you will get
are
mad when she tell you
enjoying
come
the
home at a certain
luxuries
time.
of being at home And so you know, it's almost like you can't have your cake and eat it too.
It's one of those things where, like I say, with all of these discussions we have, it's got to be on a case-by-case basis.
Yep.
The arrangement has to be with whoever is living together, the relationship,
Right.
and you make a decision as to, and it's a very easy fix, you know. It's a very easy fix.
Get your own
If you're living in an environment where the arrangement is not conducive to you, then
Then
it's
you
not
can make that decision.
it's not that easy just to say, well, get your own place, because you may not be in a let me tell you something. 99.9 of the people who are living at home are only living at home for one singular reason.
'Cause they can't
They cannot afford to live anywhere else. Because trust me, they don't want to be there.
Well,
You know.
go with your crew that you like to party with, and
And
go
go
get a
rent.
place
Well,
together.
but then this goes to the point about how really much of a void there is, because I can tell you, as a 22-year-old, when I was thinking of that and wanted to look at places where I could share, if you think of there are not very many roommate actions going on in this country. As one of the things, you have some, but it's not a big, like in the States, they just. Anyone could room.
You have roommates.com.
And you don't even know who the person is,
You
right?
know they are.
Here it's very
That's a little
difficult to
scary.
find a good roommate, and it's also, again, but the cost of a decent accommodation that can accommodate two people comfortably, so that they're not in each other's face, especially if they're strangers, is expensive.
But you heard what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Your crew who you like to go partying with, go and rent with them, so it's not a stranger
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, that crew probably broke.
Yeah, they are broke, and I guess I bet they have a
got
different
money.
arrangement with their
Yeah,
parents.
they just want to live by you.
Go and find a home,
Yeah.
some nice apartments, fire trail, and then staple in, and y'all
Yeah.
go split the rent.
Yeah.
Rather than frustrating your
it's
parents.
like I say. I think if it was easy, people would just pick up and go. It's just
Right.
not that easy. You got first and last month, and security deposit, and insurance,
I
and
always
this
think
and
that's
that.
ridiculous, though.
It's
But I
what,
guess I understand.
first and last month.
Yeah, and secure. I think, like in the States, you don't because they had like credit checks in the States. You could come up with your first month and that's it. And they used to run specials and deals. Like when I was in college, they'd run specials
Yeah, the
and
ones
deals.
what I dealing with, they was in the first and last month, and all kind of things.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Where was this, in Minnesota?
No, just the other day I had to do that for my daughter.
And they wanted first, last,
Yeah,
and security.
and in fact, let me tell you
They must
something.
even aim in.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you
aim
what
in
they
on
wanted. Not only did they want first and last month, this is a college thing. They wanted you to pay in 2 installments
Yeah.
because because they don't want anyone.
The,
It's,
to-
it's
the
their
total
deal.
of the first, last, and security pay in 2 installments.
No.
What are you
They
talking about?
You paid first and last.
Uh-huh.
Well, so first. So let's just say you paid last and security,
Uh-huh.
and then you paid for the first 6 months, and then for the last 6
You
months.
pay in advance for the first 6 months?
That's correct. That's
oh,
correct.
no. That's
Yeah.
the kind of place you all chose.
No, that's because of because of where it was close to the school. That's the terms. And here you got to understand now. These are college kids, right? Some potential major damage. It happens in some of these places, man. I see in some of these units, but not little.
It's an upscale kind of place.
No, you should see this place. There's no upscale at all. It's like makeshift almost.
That's
but it's
crazy.
because it's the proximity is what you're paying for, because you could walk to the school. So
So,
Anyway.
just to wrap up, parents, I would suggest not making, your house so comfortable to the point where your child doesn't even have the motivation to leave.
well, if you got a big house, you're in trouble.
Right. I always think, I recommend that that there's a plan of action for your child, whether it is to create an environment for them to build themselves up financially, and the goal is to become independent and move out. And well, the goal is always to move out.
Right. Well, that's why I say
you're
no one.
not here for good.
There is, listen.
You were not here for good.
You have 2 older kids.
Uh-huh.
You don't tell me they won't be out. You know they won't be out.
Well, I know I want it to be out.
Because they won't be out because they won't do their thing.
I know I want it to be out. Yes, and so
Everyone
that should
wants
be.
to do a
But then
thing.
exactly, and I mean, if there are any young adults listening to this, that should be the motivation.
Oh, thing is always the
So
motivation.
if you are working, no, not the thing. I'm just saying to move out. To move out, to become independent, that should be the motivation. So if you are in fact working, you're not, and work towards that. Save, do something but the goal should always be to leave, because And I still hold true to two men and two
Yeah.
women can't live in the same
You
house
realize
together.
you realize
I
that
fully
probably
agree
the majority of
100%
people in
with
this
that.
town who end up leaving their home, of a lot, not all, but a lot, are because they get married. That's their phrase, move out.
Yes.
Oh, that was
yeah.
That was Candy's reality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. They
Which is, I think,
'cause-
ridiculous.
because now you
move
got a
from one house to
roommate.
the
That's your
next.
roommate
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Which and that, you go
The
start
next
crazy.
roommate.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm crazy now.
All right, charmed. Always a pleasure.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Candy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. Our guest was scheduled to be Phil Galanis, but unfortunately we had a little difficulty, and so we had a scheduling mix-up, and we'll get that all sorted out later. Before we get into some local stuff,
Yep.
the Trumpster. What's his approval rating now?
37%,
Okay.
and it's continuing to fall.
And 37 is, and here's the deal with that. What was it going in?
Well, 46%. Well, they said he won when the election occurred. He won with 46% of the
Approval rating?
Approval rating.
Right.
And they said this is the first president ever to start
Right.
his presidency with less than half the support
And going down.
of the country and decreasing.
Well,
seems
you know
day
what's
by
sad
day.
is I saw a clip on something today, and I didn't have a chance to watch it. I'm looking forward to actually going home and watching
What's
it.
this?
They had hearings. The FBI had
the
hearings.
FBI hearing. Yeah, we were watching that before.
And
the show
and
started.
what they showed, what it seemed to indicate, first of all, the FBI guy made it clear that there is an
Oh
investigation.
yeah, the investigation's happening.
And that not only are they looking into the Russians' impact, but they're
On the
and it's only
election.
an investigation. They're saying if there's any kind of collusion or working with the Trump campaign. But then this one woman was on there, and she was naming all these Russian connections to these people that work for the administration.
Really? And I
Like
didn't hear that. I didn't see
like
that
this
part.
guy Carter Page and some guy named Steve Miller. How they have these companies and they work for these Russian consultants.
Oh, it's not looking good.
Okay, and so I believe that the Trumpster is a child, and that what he did with this wiretapping thing, he just threw that out there to try
You
to,
mean
to, to
Obama? Say
yeah,
Obama.
yeah. He just threw it out there to try to okay, can y'all focus on this now?
Well, but he just looking like a fool
And
now.
it's just made up. And everyone is saying it's made up. He does not have one ally that's saying it's not made up. And so, what are you doing, Don? What do you, I mean, have you lost your mind?
Was it him Kellyanne Conway? That's his only person who backed him up, saying it could have been through the microwave, the surveillance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it could have
Yeah,
been
you know
through
how
your
her
butt.
head ain't too good.
Yeah. No. So that's going to be. I think from what I saw, and I saw like a 10-minute clip. I think this is going to get serious.
It's already serious.
Yeah, but I think this is going to be. I could be wrong. I mean, but it just looks
Yeah.
like there's some.
He looks scared too. If
There
you look
looks
at
like
him.
that because see, let me tell you something,
He
man.
looks scared. He looks scared. The only time I saw this look, not to cut you
Mm.
off, was when Obama and he were meeting, and Obama was apprising him of all he's coming into.
Mm-hmm. Obama might
Remember-
tell him, I know about the Russians, you know. That's what it might have been. I know about that.
You remember when they're in the White House and they're having conversation?
Yeah,
he
yeah.
just looks so scared. That's
And
the look
Obama
that
didn't say
was
much.
on his face yesterday.
Donald just kept talking about how Obama's a
He's
good guy. But I think that Obama might have told him, listen, we know about the Russians.
and then take the press and then head
But
into
y'all
the
have
press
left from here.
conference.
But anyway, so because he's got the Trump care thing is backfiring, right? The budget thing is backfiring. And so I think this Russian thing, and by the way, Comey, this is the guy who,
Yes,
remember, he
this is the
messed
FBI
up,
guy.
right? He said things like, Putin hates Clinton and was in favor of
Yeah.
I mean, he made some very distinct comments that Putin wanted to get Donald Trump in.
Yep.
And this guy Tillerson and all that kind of stuff and his connections said he never lobbied for the sanctions being lifted, but he had gone to the White House 7 times and to the State Department X amount of time. Anyway, it'll all come out. That's one thing about the U.S. It'll come out.
Yeah, it will come out. But it's just the growing dissatisfaction, not just amongst those folks who did not vote for him, but amongst those who did.
Vernell.
your boy Vernell and them, Ma and Pa them. They ain't too happy. They're not happy at all.
Because they can't get the affordable care. They don't know nothing about that Obamacare, but they want that affordable care. Anyway, that's all. It's going to pan out. It'll be interesting. Speaking of which, so we slide into, because we were going to talk to Phil Galanis. You know, Phil is obviously a columnist who has been commenting on affairs, the political affairs. And in fairness, I think it's fair to say that I think he offers, in many cases, a kind of a balanced, objective perspective. And I think people within his own party, I mean, I'm assuming he's more aligned with the PLP than not, but I think people in his own party would say he's often critical of the party. So in that vein, one I think can call him middle of the road. But so we were going to talk to him about that perspective. But having said that, we are now in this season, and one of the things we want to try to do here is to give analysis. We started off with ACE last week when we looked at the numbers. And just this story. I mean, it's a story in the Punch, and I wasn't there. I don't know how real it is, but on the conceptually, right? When it says, okay, 10 people were at the DNA rally, and I'm not going to get into it. I don't know if it was 40 or 15 or whatever the number is. What it highlights, it goes back to that constituency would be what you would consider to be a traditional PLP constituency.
I'd agree.
Okay, so and this is just basic analysis. So last election, they may have had more fervor with regard to DNA because they were an opposition party. But I would attribute, if these numbers are accurate, and we can find it, they were either accurate, there was either a canceled rally or not. Okay, would indicate that people are saying, look, if I want the Progressive Liberal Party, I will vote for the Progressive Liberal Party. If I don't want the Progressive Liberal Party, I'm not voting for any kind of fringe that could take away from me attaining the objective of not wanting the Progressive Liberal Party. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
See, this is all math at the end of the day. We go back to this thing about math again. So having said that, I think, it's going to be interesting to see, who we should be keeping the eye on is these same DNA rallies and, people always counting numbers at rallies,
to see the galvanizing support this time around?
Well, to see how their support is compared to last time.
I don't know what it was in Hopetown, for example, last time. I don't know if there was a huge volume.
Well, I don't think they canceled the rally. So that's the point. I mean, if that is true.
I don't know that they had a rally there.
Let's just use that as an example, right? Maybe they had a rally there last time, right?
I don't know that they had
this
one.
time, according to the report, they canceled the rally. So if you had one and this time you cancel, that's the thing.
Maybe the speaker was sick.
What's that?
Maybe the speaker was sick.
Or maybe the whole crowd was sick. Maybe they ate some lobster. The bad said lobster, yeah. So maybe they all went to a party, had the crack conch. Because you do a lot of conking up there. But they'll have other rallies in locally.
Yeah, well, this is something to watch for real.
Yeah. For instance, when you look at, and again, we're looking at this from an analytical perspective. If someone were really smart, let me rephrase that. If someone were really focused on this, and they looked at those vote differentials, and they said, okay, let's look at the 10 constituencies where there were, or the 18 constituency where there were 300 votes or less that caused the Free National Movement to lose the seat, or where the percentage was, a 2% differential. When they're having rallies in those constituencies, what's happening there?
Yeah.
Do you see a waning support?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's going to boil down to. It's going to boil down to who's voting for and who's voting against. And I think in all elections, look at Donald Trump's election.
Yeah.
Was that a vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Or was that a vote against the establishment?
I think. Well, he represented anti-establishment.
Right. So it was against establishment. I mean, yeah, they're voting for him, obviously.
No, I know that, but I think it was both. I think there were people who were enamored with his charisma, who liked what he was saying. Right. There are a lot of people who were sick and tired of that other side, and so they needed someone new. And that's what he represented. So those are
the against, yeah. So it's because let's face it, he would not have been what you would call the model candidate.
No, and I think everybody recognized that. Even his supporters, I would imagine, recognized it. A lot of those people were Republicans.
Well, I don't know if Vernell recognized it.
I think so. If he weren't in the race, who would have won that? Who would have gotten the nomination for the Republicans?
Well, actually, the argument is if Trump had not, if a more mainstream candidate had won, chances are they would have won bigger
Than
than
girl.
he. Yeah. No. Then they would have beat her.
Hillary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would have. They
I
would have.
said
Had
it-
yeah.
Go ahead.
You're agreeing.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I'm saying if a more mainstream candidate were there
for the Republican.
for the Republicans, I think they would have had a greater chance of beating
Hillary. Oh yeah.
that's
oh,
what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They would have lined
Because a
up.
lot of people were just so sick and tired
Yeah.
of her. And
Now, of course, the other thing is, would those people have stayed home? Because maybe
that's a good point.
what would have happened was people who ordinarily came out because they were
'cause that's their boy?
Well, they were let's
that's
make
their
America
boy. That's what I mean, that's 'cause
America
that's
good.
their boy.
Yeah, like those people up in
Yeah.
the Panhandle.
America.
Yeah, they
M-U-R-I-C-A.
what's that? Yeah, America. The Americans came out, man. You know what I'm saying?
Because he's one of them.
He's America.
You know what I mean?
You got the hat, America on the hat. So he had, he wasn't guessing. He made sure he was American. And they came out in full force.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think those people may have been generally in previous elections, or even if they just had a kind of a, white bread type of candidate, but it just said, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
matter to me.
Yeah. Isn't that, you could always speculate as to what would have happened, but you just never know. Because
Yeah,
even if it were, like you said, another candidate, some people might have been like, I'm not enticed or excited by this guy or this woman. I'm not coming out to the.
No, I'll tell you,
to
Bernie
vote-
had won.
to
He would have won, I think, by a landslide. If Bernie had won. So you go back to here, and we kind of have what you would call I think most people feel. See, the Christie government is all. And I say let's just use it this way: the incumbent is always saddled with the discontent. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
unless you have
unless you
rain
have-
manna.
I know, from the sky.
Okay,
Manna fell from
you
the sky.
are
It's a tough
the one
hike.
who we don't like. Okay, so this is the obstacle you have to overcome. Now, on the other side, then, if you don't have an overly inspirational option, then it becomes a little bit more harder to
But choosing the lesser of the two.
yeah. So the question is, but you see, it always boils down to this, though. I know what I got. I know what I can get. So what do you do between I know what I got, as opposed to I don't know what I can get?
Well, I don't know what I could get. Sometimes is a very tricky situation.
It is, but
know
if
what I
you
mean?
don't
Because
feel
you'd
you
rather
got
deal with the
nothing,
devil, but you rather sometimes deal with the devil you know.
well,
Let's just say you have a boss that you don't like, right? But you know his or her.
it depends on how much you don't like.
But
If you don't like him,
boy.
if you into I can't stand the living guts right? Then it's a little bit easier to say the living guts. I'm not
Boy,
dealing with
I
that.
know.
So no, I'm just saying it's where you are, right? Like,
Yeah,
I say to people in the 2012 election, for instance, the FNM had built roads, they had built the airport, the hospital, all these things. None of those impacted
Infrastructure.
people. Personally, okay. The airport, well, I don't go away. I ain't got no money to go away. I never see the airport. Okay.
Well, the roadworks
The roads,
impacted
okay,
people.
yeah,
Yes,
of course they did,
Yeah,
but of course that was kind of too late because the impact it was having close to the election was causing me to wait in line in traffic.
That was a major boo-boo for the
Okay.
FNM. Major.
Hospital, well, it's not finished yet. It's not done yet. Whatever other building, these things are. What affects me is my job. The fact that banks were shutting down and I don't have a job. I'm losing my house. That impacts me. Now, if you're in a position where you are losing your house, and there's a person in charge who did not stop you from losing your house, and Rogan comes along and says, "Man, I
You
can
got a
make sure
plan
you
to make sure you be straight.
get your house back."
Well, absolutely.
I
think
got
you
to
might
go with that.
Absolutely.
Because I out
That's
the
just
door
common
now.
sense because I'm looking out for myself.
And that's
And
I
that's
think
how they
that's what-
came into power. A lot of people were really happy about that campaign promise about this mortgage relief program. There's a lot of other things, but I remember that one standing out specifically. There were folks too who wanted NHI again. Individuals who don't have access to insurance, can't afford insurance because a lot of them don't have jobs. So those things really did appeal to a lot of Bahamians.
Right. So I this is where
But what are they offering this time around?
well, I don't at this stage, as I look between the two parties. Obviously, the incumbent party also has the capacity to spread the sugar. Spread the sugar. You know, you have things are happening now, and like Ace said when he was here, you know, the only kind of critical necessity you have to be critical is like why it happening now. You know, to someone like me, it's very insulting that it happens now. You know, but yeah, you have
the question in the motive.
Well, yeah, because see, at some point, if you're 58 years old, and you know, it used to be when the Queen used to come to the Bahamas, her route get paved.
Oh yeah, I remember
Okay,
that.
so everyone happy that the Queen come.
If you live on that road, you're real happy.
We happy that the Queen come because at least the road can get paved. But you know, it's only so much that you can take.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been around I've been around now for six elections or so, and you see the same pattern.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who it is, because it's on both sides. So anyone who's listening out there, just you know, it happens on both sides, right? Why are you paving my road 1 hour before I have to go to vote? You know?
Hey.
Do you because it's not by the way, not that I don't want the road paved, you know. I like the fact that the road is paved, okay? And by the way, the big one is the road paving. That's always the one, right? But am I stupid? Do you think I'm stupid?
To fall for it.
On the sixth time?
I feel like sometimes they just want a talking point to say we paved the roads, we did this. It doesn't even matter the time frame that you did it, even though you did it the day before the election.
There's a kind of a
talking
sinister.
point.
There's a kind of sinister philosophical perspective that they'll forget it if you do it earlier. It's not that we don't want it to. Well, first of all, we have to win. Let's be honest. Parties, they're not there like, oh, okay, if we win, don't worry about it, not a big deal.
Oh,
No.
The business for them.
We need
Must
to win.
This is
Like
their
my
business.
good friend who was here sitting with us one time said, "Huh? No, I'll tell you afterwards." He was sitting with us. He said, "We got to win. This is my livelihood."
Yeah, I thought that was who it was.
Oh, I don't know if you lip sync. You don't lip sync well or whatever you do. Yeah. So yeah. Correct. Yeah. Your people.
I gotta over.
So the reality is that this is a serious business of survival, and this is on both sides. We have to win. So if we're going to win, we have to employ a strategy. And I can envision that they're sitting in cabinet employing strategies like, okay, what do we need to open up now? What do we do?
But is this strategy going to cut it? I mean, but this is where voters really need to open up their eyes, because how many years are they going to employ the same tactics, the paving of the roads, the promising that this development will come about, that this, that. And you keep falling for it.
And let me tell you, we're going to come back, but I'm going to remind me to tell you a story about Inagua. I'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. Our guest was supposed to be Phil Smith.
No,
Phil Galano, sorry, Phil Smith.
God rest his
There's
soul.
a Phil Smith too, but he was not able to make it because of a little mix-up we had in terms of timing. So we're talking about elections and the
tactics.
If we could listen.
The strategies employed.
I always tell you, Rogan Smith, when we do these shows, and I didn't mean this sincerely. If one single person who didn't get it before we say what we say gets it, then we've succeeded. By the way, I want to show a shout out to Henry McDonald. Henry came up to me today and he said, I've never met the gentleman.
driver?
Yeah,
that's my sister's uncle.
Henry came up to me today.
I love Henry. So shout out to Henry. That's crazy.
Henry came up to me, and I was out of the blue.
Henry?
And I was going into my office, and I'm focused on work, and you never, And by the way, even yesterday, I was kind of like I was kind of down on things because of various things going on, and then there are moments that when someone can just change everything for you, right?
And he's very upbeat.
And Henry came up to me and he said, "Mr. Fields," and I said, "How you doing, sir?" And I thought it was just going to be a greeting and all. And he goes, big fan, man. Listen, you guys, you're doing a good job. Listen, just really appreciate it. Please, just stick with your principles. And you know what he said? Now this is where it gets a little uncomfortable for me, but this is what he said. He goes, "You make me very proud to be a Bahamian." That's what he said to me.
Wow.
So how that made me feel.
And guess what? I've known him almost all my life.
Yeah.
He is extremely genuine if he says that to you.
Well, I knew he was genuine. I could feel it. That's why I said, "Do you?" He had no idea where, you know, when you're fighting this battle, because listen, we're here, this is a battle. And I don't mean a battle between you and I. I'm talking about a battle for our country.
I understand.
And sometimes you feel like you're fighting this battle and you're not getting anywhere. And you don't do this. I don't do this to be on the radio. If I don't, you know, that isn't my drive, right? My drive, and sometimes I wish I could wake up and say, please just let me be like other people and just let me go and play golf and do whatever, you know. But I feel the need to say these things. So that's why I say, you know, I got to thank you, Henry, because the whole point of this is if we can make one person understand what we're trying to say, not that we're always right or we have the answers, but to get it. So if today someone's listening and we're talking about don't let them insult you.
Yeah. And that's
don't
what
let
it
them
is.
diminish you.
Don't let them buy you.
Right. Okay. See, buying is almost, I mean, and you're right, it's almost that's to the extreme. Just don't let them disrespect you. Okay? If you feel the need to vote for a candidate or a party because you support what they do, by all means do it. But don't do it because you got some token or some thing. Okay?
Or you've sold your vote.
Yeah, you know. So,
and not to cut you off, but even just selling your vote doesn't have to be anything expensive. It could just be this. So somebody give you a shirt and a turkey, that's selling your vote if you promise to vote for them for that. Because at the end, if that's what you're gonna bring a representative to represent you for 5 years for, a shirt and a turkey.
Rogan Smith, I told you I was considering running. I'm not cut out for that stuff. I can't be, you know, that expectation. And it is rough out there for those people who are voting, who are running, you know, because that expectation is so deep, man, and it's very easy to feel that that's the only way.
No, but that's why I tell you I respect Jeff Lloyd. Like, honest to God, I can't say this enough. Like when he said he's telling them to their faces,
not doing it.
That's what you expect. It's not going to
happen. I'm not okay. So if you, so my thing would always be is, you know. If you go in on your own terms and you lose, fine.
Yes.
Because that isn't who you want. But I want to say to the folks out there that try this time around. Candia Dames had put a post out about the choices, and her focus was focused on the leadership. And I'm paraphrasing here, was whether or not I can vote for a candidate, and realize that. I may not necessarily be happy with the particular leader. I said, well, you know what? If you believe that the candidate you vote for is the better candidate, then perhaps if everyone is doing that, and the end result is that a leader wins that you may not feel is quote unquote the right type of leader. Hopefully the candidate you vote for, and this is a very nuanced thing, will have impact on the leadership. Because leadership shouldn't just be about one person.
I agree. And that's the problem we run into every single time, because we look for this messiah in this one person.
Right. So if you now think about
exactly,
if you think about when you're voting, who you're voting for as a person who will have an impact for the positive or the benefit of the country on a leader, but more so as a leadership team, as you said, then that's maybe the way you go. And I think that makes life a little easier in terms of your decision making, because you're now saying, I'm not voting for an individual, I'm voting for a team. So which team are you happier with?
It's a tough spot to be in. Honest to God,
in this system.
It is a tough spot to be in, because it's particularly as we're looking at the leaders, the parties that are offering them the leaders that are offering themselves. It is hard to choose between, and I'm obviously talking about Mr. Christie and Dr. Dominguez here, somebody who folks may regard as not being the strongest orator or having the greatest personality or charisma, but having a great team, versus somebody who can talk up a storm, but may not be as effective in their mindset. I mean, it's hard.
It's hard, yeah.
It really is tough. It's not, you know.
And you know, I just felt moved right now to make a statement here, and that is this. I guess I've been beating around the bush with this, but this election is not about three parties. Okay, I mean, we can pretend if we want to. You know, look at, just by the way, do you notice the other day the gentleman Greg Moss?
Oh yeah, he says he's not. He's no longer the leader. Of his
a week
party.
ago, I don't.
He
You know, I
quit.
really don't understand these
He
people.
quit.
You know, see Kendrick. I often there are certain things that move Kendrick. Right? He's over there chuckling. 1 minute they were ratifying people in Andros.
It's embarrassing.
Okay, Dr. Leon Higgs, okay, was being ratified in Andros with the leader of this party at the table, right? And then the next minute, he
Let me tell you something.
now I'll tell you one. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
you go ahead.
no, I was gonna say
You better don't show up at no other.
it's it's embarrassing, and I don't. As a voter,
Yeah.
you've just lost all my respect. You've lost every single bit of my respect because you left your party. You said you're going to go start something else, and then you quit this party. I mean, like, who's going to take you seriously after this? Who's going to take you seriously?
See, but here's the
People get too caught up in their egos, and this is why they say leaders are called. You know what I'm saying? You have folks who believe that I could just walk off from my party and become leader of my own and do my own thing, but that's not how it works.
But here's the difficulty. The difficulty is, let's look at scenario with, say, Mr. McCartney. Now, many probably would applaud. I'm not saying who they were. I'm not putting myself in this bracket. Many would applaud if he were to say, "I'm closing shop." Is it the same thing as
No, I
Greg
don't
Moss
know.
closing shop? I don't know. You see why I say many would applaud? Many would not applaud too. All the people who
I
followed
just
him.
wanna say, yeah.
It's better for him to, I suppose, in that scenario to say, look, I'm not quitting, but I'm going to throw my support behind one or the other or that type of thing. Because I don't know what you're trying to accomplish
This
here.
is not a good move.
What are you trying to accomplish?
That's not a good. That's the people who would applaud are those who want the FNM to win, or I don't know, but I don't know that people would honestly like that. It would just seem too helter skelter, like you just all over the place with what you're doing.
The only option Mr. McCartney, in my view, has, in terms of any kind of move like that, would be to meet with his party and his supporters and say, look, we've worked out a deal with a particular party. I want to recommend that we put our support behind party A or party B, so that it is not a unilateral decision by him where one day he wakes up and says, well, by the way, like Mr. Moss seemingly did.
Yeah, I'm no longer.
Yeah,
the head of
and
the party.
John now is and this is another one, the acting president of the party. I didn't even know
Really?
you had presidents of parties, but they have them now.
No, I think for Mr. McCartney, honestly, he just needs to go and follow through with this election. Then after this election is done, because he's probably already doing some mulling in his head right now about his political future.
There's a lot of mulling going on.
There's a lot of mulling going on. Then decide, you know what, this ain't working out or whatever. But I wouldn't suggest at this point that he would say, you know what, I'm just going to throw my support behind any party. For his, and I'm talking solely for his party's sake. It just, and for him, it just doesn't
Well,
look good.
but let's put it this way.
It just doesn't
Let
look
me
right.
make a prediction. There is not going to be a party after this election. That's all to it. Because I'm just making this has nothing to do personal. This is a numbers thing. And by the way, we have seen this. This isn't new in the Bahamas. I can name you SDPs and BDPs. Okay, we can name these scenarios. It hasn't happened. Remember Mr. Frank Watson was here who said they've been down this road. Okay? So I think that it's going to be an interesting election, obviously for a number of reasons. But one of the things that I think will be, that I'm going to keep my eye on, is what is going to be the future of the DNA after this election. Because they have this last chance to prove that they are a force.
They haven't ratified all their candidates yet, right?
No, and it is a different. Let me tell you,
And the other parties
Rogan
have.
Smith. It is a
I look
different.
at things like that.
It is a gargantuan task to go from getting deposits on 2 seats to winning. Gargantuan. Your big next step is to just get the deposit on another 14 seats, not to mention winning. So it's all, but it boils down to this. We have, I feel, I will say this publicly, over the past 5 years, an opposition that has been so mired with egos that the Bahamian, the only people who have really suffered in the whole thing is the Bahamian people. See, win, lose, or draw. If you have opposition, they win, lose, they lose. But when an opposition loses because of selfishness, not because of anything else, and I'm talking just even internally, with the Free National Movement, right? That was a fractured being, a fractured scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just say, you at the end of the day, people's names go down in history. Okay? And the question will be, and we have to we're forced as people doing this type of show to ask these questions, no matter what the personal relationships. Mr. McCartney, Mr. Moss, Miss Butler Turner, what is it that you accomplished with doing what you did?
I don't think Mr. McCartney should be included in that list at all. In great fairness, yeah, I hear your, I hear your opinion. I hear you, but I don't think he should be included in that list. I think there were a lot of people who were very hopeful that the DNA would manifest into something great because they were very frustrated with the two-party system.
Right.
Very, very frustrated. They wanted something new, and a lot of people were riding high and hopeful that it would.
I'm saying again. I go to the example, and I see your differential, the differential between an internal battle and a party. But I would ask, with all due respect, as many, and I'm not saying I disrespect any of these people. With all due respect, I would say the same thing to Mr. Ralph Nader. What was your objective? Because the numbers are there. Yes, you can have hope. I get it.
The objective, I would imagine, was to give people another choice. For Mr. McCartney, that is.
But when you
look, better representation.
But when you and again, I'm just going to look at the case in the U.S., right? When you look at what actually happened and what was probably a 99% chance of happening, because let's face it, the Green, what is it, Ralph Nader, the Green Party? What was the percentage chance of them winning? Okay, so what now has transpired in the course of history as a result of that? So that's how I feel you have to look at things. That's just my own personal thing. Is what is the outcome of your action?
I don't know.
Yeah, what is the outcome?
I hear you. It's just a sad situation that I feel like for the years to come, unless we change our whole system, we're going to be saddled with the same choices over and over again, hoping that maybe some great leader will emerge with a strong supporting cast to give us the representation that we deserve in this country. But until then, I'm going to be stuck with choosing between these same two parties.
I think we'll have the parties, but here's my thing, Rogan Smith, and I'll close with this. We got a couple more minutes. And I go back to, I'm going to be consistent on this, that we have a system and we can get people into that system that will be good leaders and will have an impact on perhaps even changing the system overall. Okay, that's my feeling, that if we get to the point where the people can start to choose their candidates, that people like Rogan Smith, if she so chose, can present herself to the people, not to the party, to the people.
Do you vote for candidate or party?
At this stage, I would have to say that I'm voting more for party.
Really?
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. But I'm just saying, I and probably a very large percentage of people are voting for party. That's just a factual scenario.
That's a sad situation because you could have a candidate who presents the perfect situation to you, and because of your allegiance to a party, that person will not get a chance to shine.
Yeah, but here's the deal.
That person will not get an opportunity to represent.
But here's again about outcomes, okay? If I have a choice between, and I'm going to use this as an example, Rogan of being prime minister and a numbskull, someone who I view as a numbskull, okay, that in order for Rogan to be the prime minister, I have to vote for this numbskull. Then I have to vote for the numbskull to get Rogan to be the prime minister. That's just the way it is. Now, one day we'll get to a point where hopefully we can choose our candidates in each constituency, so I can do what you suggest.
So even if your MP, and I know we got to go, even if your MP is not a performing MP, has been disgusting, has not done anything in the constituency, you will still go and mark your X for that person because you are focused on party. Yeah, it's a yes or
no,
no.
no. It's not an yes because there is great. Because obviously, if someone is terrible, okay, then just absolutely terrible, I may have to reconsider. But I'm saying that I have to look at the fact that if I'm more comfortable with Rogan running the country, because the MPA running the country, Rogan is running the country, and I'm now voting. It's like running for. You know what it's like, Rogan. Let me put it to you this way.
I can't give you my vote.
It's like, you know what it's like. It's like I'm voting for president. That essentially in this country we're voting for president. We're not voting for senators and all that. We're voting for president. And so I'm voting for president. My vote is for the whoever is the president.
And I got to vote for the candidate.
Yeah.
If you don't perform,
Okay.
see ya.
All right. So we'll see you on Thursday. Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll be able to rearrange. Mr. Galanis coming back, and I want to apologize for the scheduling snafu. We'll be back on Thursday.